Greetings, everyone. Welcome to my sketchbook. Around my home, I keep lots of musical instruments, and the ukulele is one of those things that I keep around just because it doesn't take up much space. I think what makes it kind of interesting is I used to think that this was basically a toy, um, but the truth is, it's a real deal instrument, and there are people that are pretty good at these things. Uh, that's a pretty cool thing, but I haven't done anything with it in a little while. I have an idea floating around in my head. We'll see what happens. Get this pen set up. We'll open up the inkwell. Now, let's see. Let's zoom in enough. Well, that zooms out. Let's zoom in. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of rough out something and then maybe add some detail to it and see where it goes. So, I think one of the first things that kind of pops into my head when I think of exploration, I think of the ocean. And what a strange place that is. I don't know if we really have, as human beings, explored as much of the oceans as we could. Or maybe that we should. There's a lot of things in the ocean that are kind of spooky to me in some ways. I don't know how many of you have been in the ocean. I've lived near the Atlantic for a good portion of my life. I've lived in big cities that were nowhere near. I should say a big city that is nowhere near, but my goodness, the ocean has a lot of life in it. So that's what I kind of have floating around in my head at the moment. Now, there was a time, oh, and by the way, whatever I'm drawing here, this isn't based on anything in particular. I'm kind of making this up. It might be close to something, but it's not going to be exactly like the actual diving suit. This concept had been around for quite some time, which is pretty wild to think. Some of these innovations that people had, you know that at some point somebody probably paid a horrible price to get better at making these things. Now, let's see. And as I said, it's not going to be exactly like the actual diving suit. The idea is you would have sort of this giant bell top that hopefully could take a little bit of pressure and would not leak, and then you would have tubes. Let's say have something that would be pumping air. Because that's pretty important when you go underwater. I'm going to have this with a return line to circulate the air. And hope that it doesn't really get tangled up. But I wonder about this stuff. Okay, so I did that up here. Slight twist in it. Okay, let's see. Now, I think there's a version of these that allows so let's say that's where the hand is. Okay. But let's say it has like a claw-like apparatus built in. I'll fill in some of the other detail and stuff after. Let me go with something here. So this is where I'm going to put a little ukulele, which doesn't make sense to have it underwater. But that is okay. We don't need this to make sense. We'll have a little sound hole, which would fill up with water. Sure. The bridge down here. Sure. Okay. Now, we'll use that claw-like thing. Now, I'm not sure from memory where the weights, I know they would have weighted boots, perhaps, and maybe something around the waist. And I don't think they'd use like a weight around the chest. Maybe they would. So let's say we're going to have something here. This thing would have to be kind of like bolted on. So let's say we'd have the weight on the back. That's what I get for not studying this part of oceanography. We've seen different things over the years, but And I feel like there was a version of this that looked a lot more robotic, like instead of this being kind of a rubbery, kind of leathery part down here, I think there was like an all metal version possibly as well. Oh, I spilled some ink there. Down at the bottom. Just so I don't drag my hand through it. A little. Okay. So that's what I have going on with that. Let's add a little bit of detail to this, I think. Let's zoom in on that too. Just a little bit. I used to like watching the underwater adventures of Jacques Cousteau. And you learn a little bit about the creatures of the ocean and how to respect them and how you're just kind of a visitor in their world. And then you find out that human beings are not really treating the oceans so great. It's interesting. The oceans. Now, I'm treating some parts of this a little bit differently, I think, in the doodling. Ukulele has 4 strings. And then let's see. Okay, that's simple enough. Let's go down here to the knees. And the boots. Let's say that those are kind of strapped on a little bit too and made to be a little bit heavier. But not too clunky. You still have to move them underwater. I don't know if they had like release weights. Something that, when it's time to go back up, It just makes it easier to go back up. And then they just drop those weights. I don't know why I have these straps like that. It's a really strange thing. Okay, well, that's interesting. Something else kind of floats around in my head and with this as well, now that I'm looking at it. Just going to do a slight bit of outlining there for a moment while I think of something else. Um, hmm. Suppose a lot of things that human beings kind of play around with in exploration probably starts off with the ocean anyway, but I suppose we've all heard about uh, an interest in returning to space and returning to the moon. And I don't know what I think about that, to be honest with you. When it comes to NASA, I don't know if I fully trust what goes on with NASA because I think they have to be very secretive with a lot of what they do. But I think they kind of make up stuff a little bit too much. And I don't know if that's really trustworthy, just because it's so secretive. And then there's a very public side to what NASA does. I find that kind of strange. So, uh, a lot of countries are involved in that. But yeah, no, I don't know if that's super duper trustworthy. So, this is my version of a spacesuit, let's say. And yeah. Just kind of mimicking what's going on with this one a little bit, but I'll probably change the hand positions. Let's go like here. No, I'm not going to leave them as mittens, I don't think. I think in a lot of ways, NASA exists to maybe antagonize Russia. Like after the Second World War, the United States scooped up a lot of scientists from Germany. Like, you know, there was a lot of science that would have been of great interest to them. So they scooped up all these scientists and then put them to work on, like, rocket programs and stuff like that. Well, NASA is very much a rocket program. And space exploration, like after the Second World War, it doesn't really make sense that this was a thing for them. Of course, the person who ends up running NASA was a scientist for the Third Reich. Von Braun was his last name. He was in charge of building terrible weapons. So I don't really understand his employment. Russia had no interest in keeping those people around for the devastation that they caused. So yeah, I'm probably wrong in what I'm saying about the Operation Paperclip, as it became known as. Ooh, dip the pen. Now, part of the breathing apparatus might be here with the controls kind of chest mounted so that you could kind of see what was going on. Kind of a Darth Vader gauge control check. Something going on there, maybe, I don't know. There's also life support on the back, like a huge backpack, maybe. Okay, let's work on this a little bit. We don't want the same kind of pose. Although honestly, it wouldn't matter if there was kind of the same pose. Yeah, I remember getting snow boots that looked a little bit like these moon boots. They were warm, they were clunky, they were strange. putting some wrinkles in this. Okay, let's back this out a little bit, I think. Let's go to there. I'll add a slight amount of detail to that. And maybe I'll put a little bit of water to it. Now, I don't know why we have an interest in space exploration with all that we haven't figured out on this planet. It seems strange to me. But maybe that's just it. The adventure, the wanting to go beyond what normal people might have access to. There's a lot of people who are just happy to get up, do their regular thing, not really risk anything if at all possible, and then yeah, just live that life like that. And then there's others that really do look to the stars. So I can't mock that. I just don't know if that's really even possible. As I said, I don't know if I really fully trust whatever NASA's up to. They just don't seem like they're really forthright in sharing what they're actually doing, if not just building rockets. What else are they up to? Let's see here. Okay, well, let's bring this out a little bit. We'll add a little bit more detail to this, I think. We'll look at that little splotch that I did down there. That's funny. All right, I'll set the pen down for a moment. Have a cup here beside me, and a brush. And do I want to zoom in on this again? Well, I could, I suppose. It's here that I'm going to add just a little bit of shading. Fill in the windows a little bit. I'm going from left to right just because I'm doing this left-handed. No, I'm just kidding. I'm doing it right-handed. It allows me not to smudge too much. Let's fill in some of this strap works. Have it. I don't know if I like that very much. What I may do is I may add a weight to that, let's say. Something about that I don't really appreciate, and I don't know. Oh, let's try dipping that pen. This sort of harness just doesn't make sense. Let's fill this in. this part of the her. I don't know if I've ever really had a great desire to be an astronaut. Of course, I was one of those kids that in school got to watch the Challenger, and maybe that sort of dissuaded me. Um, that wasn't easy. But yeah, no, I don't know if it's a desire for me to leave the planet. In a lot of ways, it's not about safety, maybe. I don't know, but it could be. It feels, in a lot of ways, uh, unsafe because most of the things that are supposed to be that you're supposed to be able to look after, I don't know, like a hospital, they don't have those set up in space. I don't know if I want to be somewhere where I have to rely on one of the other astronauts to. I mean, it's a good thing to rely on other people, but they're not necessarily going to be surgeons if I require that sort of help. I don't know, maybe if there's a colony set up somewhere. And there's lots of snacks. Maybe I'd consider it. Let me know in the comments, although, it's up to you. Uh, yeah, would you want to head into space? What things would deter you? What things would you be excited about? For me, right now with the brush here, I'm just adding kind of like texture to things and shade, and so nothing too outlandish. And then I'll try to go back in very quickly and maybe add a few things to this. Right now I'm taking care of the edges of stuff. Let's zoom in for a moment to see what horrible things I've done. Yeah, so they've put off the Artemis mission stuff for now. There's a lot of conflict going on in the world. there are parts of space that there's a lot of cooperation between the nations with the International Space Station. Um, I do find that stuff interesting, how they work together on certain things and other things they don't agree on at all. Canada's contributions to space. Well, there has been stuff that Canada has been involved in. I think we've, and when I say we, I mean that's a pretty heavy thing to add my name to. But anyway, I had nothing to do with it. The Canadarm in the shuttles. It's one of those things that help to deploy satellites, for example, and grab onto things while deployed, either underwater or wherever they were. The outer reaches of our atmosphere. I think what kind of bothers me about a lot of that stuff is this ability to lie about innovation, because it's hard for us to question them if we don't get to see how things work. You can watch old footage of NASA with their astronauts where, you know, they're apparently floating around in space, and, you know, you watch the Earth behind them, and it's a globe with a seam, and you watch and you can see like ropes attached to people, and their movements are so ridiculous, and you're like, I'm sure people believe this, because why would the government and its agencies lie? But like, they're so hard to watch now. It's just strange. Okay, so let's do the final part of this, because I don't think I need to go really too much further. I'm going to set the cup down. Take a sip of the beverage beside me. Okay. Get this pen going again, and we'll do the final kind of scratchings. Ooh, you know what? I am going to do something with this helmet, though, before I get into the final detail of things. So I'm going to add just a little bit of just kind of muddy it up a little bit. Maybe a little bit on the tubes. Now, they probably would have had something attached to the back, let's say, that if they needed to pull the person out, they wouldn't pull them out by these, because you wouldn't want to disconnect this by accident. So there'd probably be like a slack line, something or other. So, okay. Now we're in the final bit of this. Let's take care of some of these details and then we'll finish with the doodling for the day. My time, it's Tuesday, very early morning, which is when I like to do this stuff earlier on in the day. I can go about some other things. Now, let's see if I can kind of add a little bit more kind of dimension to something here. I don't want to fill in too much stuff because I want there to be, I want you to be able to see that we have strings on that instrument. I'll have to look up something to do with this after, just because I don't know how close I am to what the suits looked like and how they were weighted down. Like, you know, I think they probably had like things off the waist here, for example, like huge heavy weights. They really had to be strapped into these things and locked into these things and hopefully not have leaks. They would have at one point had to figure out how deep they really could go, and that would have been lots of trial and error. I'm sure there was a lot of divers that got the bends from being brought up too fast. Which is a condition that lets your blood boil, basically. Pretty scary. Now, I'm going to just kind of outline this. We're at 43 minutes. Wow. We've been putting a little bit more time. I've done a lot of like 3-minute videos in my head that turn into 15-minute videos, and then I've done a lot of half an hour long videos that have turned into hour videos. So I don't know what's going on, but maybe I'm just caught up in something. Not the worst. And as always, if it suits you, you can watch this in parts. You don't have to watch it all in one sitting. You can come back to it. Let me know what you think of NASA and space travel. If that's something that you would try yourself. That's supposed to be like a little light, let's say. Let's have like a little sparkle up there too. A little antenna. Suppose the suits themselves have changed so much over the years. I think they use uh, different colors now mainly. So there was a point, I believe, they mainly used like a white and gray kind of thing, and then it changed to blue, and then maybe now it's orange. At least it kind of feels that way. I don't really pay that much attention to NASA anymore. It just doesn't seem like a thing to me. There's so much stuff that we get in Hollywood movies that it kind of gets all blurry in my head. So Armageddon, Bruce Willis movie with Liv Tyler and Ben Affleck. Steve Buscemi in that? I like Steve. Steve Buscemi to me is one of those actors that kind of like Sean Whalen, who you recognize them from lots of movies and TV shows and stuff like that, but they're fantastic character actors. I don't think I've seen Steve Buscemi in anything as of late. I always like Steve. We're almost done here. Another almost hour-long video of just doodling around. Coming up on 50 minutes. Perhaps I will use this new timer thing that I got. During Inktober, I limit myself to 10 minutes of drawing time. And let me see, it's off to one side here. So I've used this, which you can set for 10 minutes, but I do have another thing, which I said I picked up. This is a pretty cool, I believe this is called a dodecahedron. Shape-wise, there's 12 sides, and all you have to do is tip it up to the time that you want. So if you want 5 minutes, you tip it up to that, and then if you want it to stop, then you go back to this, the start position. So that might be something that I could use to keep track of my time. But I don't know. I don't really like the limitations for my everyday doodling. Let's hop out of this for a moment. Let's go to there, maybe. Let's go a little further. Let's go to there. See if that'll kind of clear up. Just for the final part of this. Here we have two explorers of two different times. And you know what wondrous lies they would have to have told to justify them doing whatever it is that they're doing. You know, in this era, you know, let's say that's like more the Victorian age, they probably would have talked about, you know, Jules Verne like things like being 20,000 leagues under the sea, and, you know, the monsters that they would have seen, or that kind of thing. And the public just ate that stuff up because, well, not all of us have access to going deep into the ocean, so they could make up things if they needed to. And of course, there were science fiction writers who helped to push some of this stuff along, and those stories kind of all blur together after a while. I don't know if there's much else that I want to do with this. You'll notice that I often will make room on this side to put, like, you know, the previous video and then the channel sort of thumbnail marker. So if you wanted to go to the channel or to my channel, you can, you know, go up here and go to that icon. I think we are done. Two different versions of ukulele players. Well, I do believe that's it. I hope you have a wonderful day. And as always, thanks for hanging out. Feel free to leave a comment and like and subscribe and come back again. See what other kind of wacky things that we can draw. So I got to put down the pen. All right. Ooh, actually, give me a moment longer. Because if I don't do this, I'm going to be annoyed. I already did all the, like, the sound, what do they call that? The end of video stuff, where I wish you well for the day. But I'm not quite done here. If this were like a little bit bigger, I'd have like the reflection of this character here. Maybe I can kind of do that a little bit. And who's going to know? You're going to know. That's what my intention was for down here. And we'll have that going on there. Ugh. Such a strange thing to have floating around inside my head. You know, it'd be interesting to have a goldfish floating around there. Like maybe these were both in a fish tank. Because I've seen those in fish tanks. What weird things. Let's add a little bit more to this belt buckle, I think. Well, this time let's say this is how this ends. Again, thanks for hanging out. Come back again. We'll see what other wacky stuff we can do. All right. Ciao for now.